hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable or inalienable, right? Unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Although Supreme Court opinion is binding on the parties to the controversy as to the particulars of the case, talking about Roe versus Wade, it is not a political rule for the nation. Roe versus Wade is an illegitimate usurpation of authority contrary to the law of the nation's charter and constitution. It must be resisted by all civil government officials, federal, state, and local, and by all branches of the government, legislative, executive, and judicial. We affirm both the authority and duty of Congress to limit the appellate jurisdiction of the Supreme Court in all cases of abortion in accordance with the U.S. Constitution, Article 3, Section 2. Further, we condemn the misuse of federal laws against pro-life demonstrators and strongly urge the repeal of the FACE Acts as an unconstitutional expansion of federal power into areas reserved to the states or the people by the 10th Amendment. And that is from our national platform. The proper role of government. Why do we even have government? Let's start there. To protect the lives, the liberties, and the properties of the individual, first and foremost. And in that order, too. My right to liberty and to pursue happiness does not supersede my neighbor's right to life. I can't go shoot my neighbor so that I can be happy. That's an extreme case. And just like murdering our offspring, we don't have a right to take an innocent human life, the most innocent among us, and put an end to it because of some right to pursue happiness. Life begins at conception. I remember in biology in middle school, we learned what life is and how cells divide, and I was like, why is this so hard to understand? And then in high school, you take biology and you learn about what life is and how it works, and why is it so hard to understand that clump of tissue is actually a living human being. It just is in a development stage. We have bacteria in laboratories. There were years ago, there was a situation where there was some bioweapon laboratory or something. They had like the last known remaining a certain strain of smallpox, I think it was. And there were rights activists, life activists, who were wanting to put a stop to the destruction of this. They were going to destroy this virus or bacterium or whatever it was that, and they were going to destroy the last known remnants of this bug, basically. And the people's like, no, you can't do that. It'll be extinct. It'll be like the dinosaurs, gone forever. But then you have a human being over here, So going a little deeper into the human being aspect of it, though. One thing I've noticed when reading Roe versus Wade, I read some of the findings. Not so much what the talking heads say about it, but the actual findings. And it's really interesting because it came down to a woman's right to privacy, is what they cited. Okay, if a woman's right to privacy allows her to do this, please, somebody tell me about warrantless searches, no-knock raids, and how that's even possible if a life can be terminated because of somebody's right to privacy. Please. There's no logical explanation. There's no rational explanation other than selective application and selectively enforcing whatever suits the system. So is a person, the word person, is this a human being, or is it something that's created by a government action? Because it seems to me that the Supreme Court is not interested in protecting a human being as much as they are a person. What's the difference? When that baby is actually born, they're even talking about post-birth abortions at this point. Up to, oh my goodness, what is it, 6 months? 6 months? So, 3 months? So they're talking about post-birth abortions up to 3 months. Well, what happens between the birth and a few months later? It gets a Social Security number. the government declares it a person, just like it does a corporation. Yeah, corporations technically, from a legal standpoint, are sort of people, because you can't tax an inanimate object, you can't sue an inanimate object, you can't regulate a rock, you know? It has to have some sort of personhood granted to it so that the laws can manipulate it, basically, and tax it. We can't tax something inanimate. So I get a kick out of some of the folks that are saying, you know, corporations are not people. If you want to go ahead and make that so, that's fine, but you're going to have to think about some of the ramifications of how you want to tax the corporations for all the various things to build all your projects and fund your programs, because if they're no longer people, they don't have to pay taxes. Anyway, but a woman's right to privacy doesn't give her the right to slaughter her offspring. That's the bottom line I wanted to share on abortion. But the post-birth abortions, they're being slowly introduced into the political spectrum, if you've noticed. And I think what's coming on down the line pretty soon is going to be a euthanasia of the elderly. I think that's next. And it's sad because we got 70 million baby boomers roughly, and we've had how many abortions since Roe v. Wade? 50 million? 60 million now, yeah. It's a bad Ponzi scheme, this Social Security thing and this socialized medicine and Medicare. Who's going to fund it? You're going to see a lot of where the state steps in and takes the property of, and that's happening through the nursing home systems and all, where the state steps in and takes the property of those who can't afford this outrageous expense, and you're going to see inheritance gone. But yeah, euthanasia is next, because you can take every justification for abortion and you can apply it to euthanasia, and it's the same moral justification. And unfortunately, I think we're going to be staring down that barrel real soon.
This message is paid for, produced by me, David Waddell. I approve this message.